All right, so let's talk about symbolism. In literature, write down everything you see. Is that too small? Do I need to make that bigger? Or can you guys see that? Everybody can see it? It needs to be bigger? Okay. Let's see. Might be too big. We'll do it there. That's pretty big. So symbolism, okay? In literature, symbolism is an object or reference used to provide meaning to the writing beyond what is essentially being described, right? It can be restrained or obvious. I'm going to scroll up a little bit. Used cautiously or probably heavy-handedly. Heavy-handedly. All right, so just try to get the black part first. It's an object of reference used to provide meaning to writing beyond what is essentially being described. Okay, and what that means is sometimes in literature we use something to symbolize something larger, right? In our daily lives, we have all kinds of examples of symbolism. Those of you who had me first semester, you know that we watched the movie Lord of the Flies, yes? In Lord of the Flies, one of the things we talked about is they had this shell, this conch shell. And does anybody remember, those of you who had me, does anybody remember what they did with the conch shell? Christian? So whoever held it was allowed to speak, right? When they had meetings or whatever, they kind of took turns. And what we come to understand is that this shell, even though it's a shell that they blow or whatever, it's more than just a shell. It symbolizes more than just a shell, right? It symbolizes civility, being civilized, order, all of those things, okay? And if you remember, when it got to the part where Piggy died, okay? Piggy was the chubby kid, right? You remember he was crushed by the boulder or whatever? When Piggy dies, the conch shell falls and shatters. Now, if you're watching a movie, you're just watching it as a movie, you go, oh, he died, the shell shattered. But if you're looking for symbolism, if you're watching it from a literary perspective, the shattering of the shell is representative of the shattering of civilization, of being civil. Right? And we all know, those of you who saw it, know these kids are running around like savages by the end of the movie with spears and, you know, half naked and painted faces and all this other kind of stuff, right? So that's symbolism. I will also tell you, can I scroll up? Everybody okay? Okay. Heavy-handedly, an author may repetitively use the same object to communicate a deeper meaning, or might use distinctions of the same object to produce an overarching mood or feeling. There's this guy, just speaking of examples in day-to-day life. Have any of you ever heard of a guy named Hank Gathers? Anybody? Hank Gathers? Okay. Anthony, you can move up. All your stuff's dead. Come sit in this side desk. Or you know what? No, take the desk back there. That way we can still kind of social distance and take that back one in the corner. Hank Gathers was this really incredible basketball player in, I want to say the early 90s or late 80s, probably. And he used to play for this college called Loyola Marymount. And they had kind of changed the way basketball was being played. I mean, it's more common now, but it was very, very fast-paced. They would get the rebound. They would throw it out. And there, at one point, you know, they were shooting the ball every 6 seconds. So they would just get it and run people to death, right? Scoring 100 and some points every game in a college basketball game. So Hank Gathers was the best player on their team. And all of a sudden, one day, nationally televised game, Hank's out there playing, stops in the middle of the court and just collapses, right? Just collapses. Come to find out, he had a heart condition that was undiagnosed, so he died in the middle of this basketball game on national television, right? After Hank died, it was this very tragic thing. So after Hank died, his best friend on the team was also the second best player, was this guy named Bo Kimball. Hank Gathers was left-handed. So after Hank died, every time Bo went to the free throw line, he shot one of his free throws left-handed, right? Now, if I don't tell you the background to that story, you don't know why he's shooting his free throws left-handed. You just see a guy standing at the free throw line, you go, why is he shooting one left-handed and one right-handed, right? But symbolism is at work. His shooting of the free throw left-handed was symbolizing what? What? His what? His friend. His friendship with Hank Gathers. The bond they shared, right? So yes, it is simply, it's shooting a free throw left-handed, but in reality, it symbolizes something much larger than that. Understood? That symbolism works the exact same way in literature. Sometimes there are objects, sometimes there are rituals, there are things that happen that actually symbolize something larger than what the actual action or the object is. Does that make sense? Yes? No? Yes? Okay. Now, everybody got that? Okay. You don't really have to write this, but I'm going to put it up there anyway. So night, if we look at night, right, there's a reason the book is called Night. Generally, night is a time of day where everything is dark and mysterious, making things eerie and inevitable. The author used night as a title because that was how each day was lived. No sunshine, only darkness. So, and you're going to continue to see this throughout the book. Everything that happens, right, it is this overarching darkness that you kind of continue to see throughout the book. There's a reason. The name night is symbolic of something. Understood? What about this? Anybody know what that symbolizes? You've seen this before somewhere, I'm sure. Something that you need to be cautious around? Absolutely, right? It is the biohazard symbol, right? You see this in hospitals, nurses' offices and stuff like that, when they throw away used needles and stuff like that, to let you know, don't touch this, don't open this door, whatever. Sometimes you see it on places where it's radioactive and things like that. It is something that can harm you biologically, right? All right. So we got two words, white and black. When you look at the word white, or when you think about the color white, what type of things does that symbolize? Don't overthink it. Just what type of things does that symbolize? Huh? Okay, well, lack of color, right? Lack of color. White is the absence of color. What else? What things do we associate with white? Huh? Paper? People always bring up paper. True, maybe it's because we're in a school setting that people think about paper. What does white symbolize? When a woman gets married, what color is her dress? Why? Purity. It's supposed to symbolize purity. Even though these days, most of the time, or a lot of times, that purity is no longer there, right? Purity in terms of virginity. But you could potentially be looking at it like, well, I'm going to be pure for this person the rest of my life, right? Purity, what else? What else? What else do you think of when you think of white? Peace, absolutely. That's what, the peace flag. Christian.
Back in like the 50s and 60s, it used to symbolize
Wealth. Okay. What else? We got purity, wealth, peace. Say what? White people? Cannot think about white people when you see white, right? Absolutely. So you think about the people. If you look at if you're reading an old fable or an old tale or something, and they say the white knight showed up, what do we assume about the white knight? What do we assume about him? Is he good or evil? Good, right? People think of white, people think of angels, people think of heaven, right? Good, right? Generally. All right. Black. What sort of things do we associate with the color black? This is all symbolism at work. What sort of things do we associate with the color black? Monica. Say what? Darkness. Absolutely. What else? What do you think of when you think of black? What things do we associate with black? Christian.
Loss and death.
Absolutely. Death, loss. When you go to a funeral, everybody wears black, generally, right? Generally, okay? People wear black at a funeral, so loss or death. What do we think of? What do we think of when we think of doves? Right? People release doves at weddings, right? We were talking about purity and beauty. What do we think of when we think of crows? Death, right? Death. So black generally has a negative connotation historically, like in terms of what it symbolizes. Death, sorrow, evil, darkness, all of those things, okay? A black cat is bad luck, right? So these are all things people associate with these two things. My point is, when you have these words or when you have these colors, there are things that we associate with them. They symbolize very often other things. The white dress, as Christian told us, symbolizes purity. A woman can wear any color dress to her wedding, right? But there's a reason that historically it's white. What's it symbolize? Say what? Specifically, though, you're not wrong. Christianity, right? Christ, Christianity, okay? When you see the cross, that's what it generally represents. What's it symbolize?
It used to symbolize peace.
That's what's good, right? It used to symbolize peace, right? And I'm glad you brought that up because what does it symbolize now? Huh? The Nazis. Also, it's been kind of taken and used, white supremacists and those sort of things, right? Well, generally we associate it with Nazis. But it did used to mean peace. And therein lies the understanding that what things symbolize are capable of changing over time, right? You take a symbol that used to mean peace, and now it means something totally different, right? Because we associate different things with it, right? Like you can't, if you put a shirt on that has this on it and walk down the street, right? People will look at you and automatically make all of these judgments about you, right? Because it symbolizes something larger than just a symbol on the shirt, right? Whether or not those judgments are true, this is what people will assume. What's that symbolize? Anybody know that symbol? The Green Lantern Corps. All right, no comic book ads in there, man. You got to know the Green Lantern Corps. What's that symbolize? Salvador, what's it symbolize? Huh? Put your mask down. What? Women, right? You don't look, it doesn't matter what language you speak. You see that sign, you know what that means, right? You know that represents women. We all know this sign, right? The golden arches. There was a study one time that said, I don't know if this is sad or not, But there was a study one time that said that the McDonald's symbol, the golden arches, was more recognizable across the world than even the Christian cross. Yeah. So you go to places where people are like, yo, I don't know what that cross means, but I know about that double cheeseburger. I know about that Big Mac, right? They recognize what that is, right? It becomes so global that it symbolizes something else. We know that one, right? What's it symbolize? Peace, right? What's it symbolize? This is interesting now, right? What do you think of when you think of rainbows? Say what? Gay pride. Now, this is an example, much like our Nazi symbol, right? The swastika. This is an example of something changing over time, right? A rainbow didn't always mean gay pride, right? It's just a rainbow. You start thinking about Lucky Charms and Skittles and all kinds of stuff, right? It's only currently that it means that. But again, if you walk down the street with a t-shirt that's on it, people are going to assume some things, right? They're going to assume either you're gay or that you're very passionate about gay rights or something along those lines, right? And if you were to tell someone, nah, this ain't about gay people, man. It's about, Lucky Charms. It's about Skittles. They would go, oh, right? Oh, but that's not what they associated with it because the symbolism has grown to the point that it symbolizes something else, right? Red. What do we think of with red? We did black and white. What do we think of with red? Christian. Blood, power. What else? Danger. Absolutely, right? Let you come in here and the light start blinking red. What will you do? What's going on? All right. Immediately, right? What else? It's February. Love, right? Some of y'all gonna be booed up here in the next couple weeks, right? Love, right? We associate red with love. Have you ever heard somebody say, I saw red? Never? You never heard that expression? It's an old expression. Anybody know what that means? Anybody want to take a guess at what that means? It's like, man, I came downstairs. I just bought me a box of Cinnamon Toast Crunch, right? My mouth was watering. I knew I was about to go eat me some Cinnamon Toast Crunch. I went in the kitchen. I opened the cabinet only to discover that my brother had eaten the entire box. I saw red. What do they mean? Anger, rage, right? Anger, rage. Also associated with red, right? Okay? Let's see. I think we might have one more on here or something. Okay. So Superman, we all know that symbol. Okay? So the whole hope. Yeah, hope if you read the comic books and you watch the movie. But again, I showed you all of these simply to illustrate the point that in our daily lives we see examples of symbolism all the time. We just don't think about them in those terms. But the same thing happens in literature. There are objects and rituals and things that symbolize things that are greater than the object or ritual itself. All right, so number 2 on the agenda, it says sketch assignment, right? Pretty simple, pretty straightforward. I used to make this a page, but I shortened it. It says make a sketch of a memorable scene and express your thoughts in a half page and feelings concerning it. So first thing, pick out a scene. Anything that you've read to this point that stood out to you, okay? You're going to make a sketch of it. This is not art class. I'm not grading how good your sketches are. Only no stick figures. That's the only thing I'm going to say, no stick figures, okay? But other than that, I don't really care how good it is. Pull this out the way. Make predictions and talk about your connection to the literature, right? So talk about it. How did you feel about what took place? And then make some predictions about the types of things you might see happening later in the text or in the story. Understood? Any questions about that?